I've known Dr. Sumantran for quite some time, an admirer of his. I'm wondering the transformation of Sumantran as a designer of automobiles for decades and decades and evolving as a brilliant exponent of the mobility solution, where he says the automobile is not that important in terms of the weight ratio he mentioned. In the beautiful book on which he worked for over 3 years, he gives a very beautiful case for mobility as an important thing. That we have been designing roads as a society for cars. He says the society must be designed for people. My question here in this case is, are we aligning our policies to this? You mentioned about Chennai getting sprawling development as a lateral development from Gumbudi-Pindi right up to Chengalpet. We are now thinking in terms of metro rail systems. Are we aligning our policy of vertical growth of cities? Still our restriction is on FSIF 2. Whereas the FSIF 2 will perpetuate the spread of sprawling city all across. Should we not be campaigning for the development of high-rise buildings along the thing, permitting a very liberal 6 or 8 FSI?
Mr. Vishwanathan knows economics way better than I do. He's forgotten more about economics than I've ever known. So, no doubt, I think we will have to see the cities grow vertically. Very simply, no matter what infrastructure we want to deliver, the sprawl means that every bit of extra fiber optic cable or every extra kilometer of wastewater treatment, every one of those investments multiply. So having denser packing of populations is going to be necessary. I mean, you know this, and I fully agree with your view.
Last question. Sir, I'm Professor Srinivasan. Being the last person to ask the question, let me change gears and go to a totally different area. I have two quick questions. One is, as an investor in the share market, we've been constantly advised, if you want to buy shares, don't buy automobile industry shares or OEMs. But if you still want to play in the market, go for auto ancillaries. I want your take on that. Because I want to carry home message. The second is a totally different thing. 2 days back, we were proud to know that coaches made by ICF have been flagged off in Sydney, 32 metro coaches. If that's true, if that's what we heard. If that is true, I mean, if ICF can make that kind of a coaches which can be exported, can not the automobile industry do that?
On the first question, I think I will give you an unambiguous answer. For many, many years, I've been telling Mr. T.K. Balaji that he's in a better sector than I was. The component sector increasingly makes better margins than the OEM sector, and he was wiser to stay where he was. As far as the rail coaches, to be honest, I don't know that much about the rail industry, but what I do know is, I'm not sure about the Sydney coaches, but any engineered product today, and particularly for things like rail coaches, because it's not like an automobile where you make the same part in a million of them or 2 million of them. Each one is re-engineered, reconfigured for that particular operation, that particular line. In my experience, India can take on China anytime, as long as the product requires a higher quantum of engineering per unit of revenue. The more there is reconfiguration, redevelopment, redesign, and I'm going to make 40 of this, and then I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to re-engineer it, and I'm going to make 80 of that. Those are business sectors where India excels. And we ought to make it something that we are, really able to exploit and export. All I know is, the train 18 itself was a good enough example, and all we had to do was massively scale it up and deploy it across the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening talk and also answering all the questions. Now it's time for summing up and vote of thanks by our Vice President, Sri Murali.
On behalf of the Triplicane Cultural Academy and the Kasturi Srinivasan Library, I profusely thank our expert speaker, Dr. V. Sumantran sir, for his excellent and lucid address on auto industry present and future trends. It's very thoughtful of you not to include past. Otherwise, normally நேற்று இன்று நாளை தான். But as an accountant also, the past, it's a sunk cost. It is not useful for decision making process. What you require is only opportunity cost, the measurable advantage foregone to choose an alternative. This is very important. And that way I have to thank him for choosing the right topic on a very, very, the industry, everywhere, any seminar or a conference today, it is incomplete unless and until you are talking about the auto recession. This is the reality. But here he has given a 360-degree view. He is addressing on insurance, NBFC questions. My friend is asking not only on manufacturing side, demand side, infrastructure side, international, everything he has given. Kindly give a very big hand to him. And a person of such a high caliber here coming and sharing the pearls of wisdom emanating out of his practical experience, coming and sharing is a great thing. I have to thank Anand also, and of course our president as well. And Adi Godrej said in the AGM, sales is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is the reality, he said. The sales is very important. The turnover, the billings, that's very, very important. That only determines your market share. But then what is the use of that sales if you don't have a profit element? You must have profit. Then only it's a profitable business model. Otherwise that particular sales, that's why he said sales is vanity, profit is sanity. But then what is the use of the profit? It gets locked up in your inventory, work in process, Sunday data. It is there in the yard, but it is not realized. What is the use? There will be a mismatch. There will be a cash crunch. There will be a liquidity crunch. So cash is the reality as mentioned with reference to real estate question. So here it is very, very equally important for auto industry. Earlier they are reduce their profit, they reach at the break even. Then fixed overheads, at least you have to run to absorb the fixed overheads, that's very important. Now how to cut down the fixed cost, to that level the industry has come, where they have to reduce it. Otherwise the break even point itself you have to bring it down. That is the state of the industry. There are so many reasons. He has talked about BS6, he has talked about the electric thing. What he has not mentioned is demonetization, of course GST. There are so many things are involved. Sometimes we have to be very careful, but then since this is a intellectual gathering, so many points are there. And really I have to, he has a book, Faster, Smarter and Greener. The faster. See, fast is a relative term. A Japanese citizen wanted to go to the airport. He called the autowala. Please take me to the airport. While going, he was telling, what is this? You are going very, very slow. See, the Nissan car going very, very fast made in Japan. See, Toyota car going very, very fast made in Japan. See, Honda car going very, very fast and made in Japan. The autowala got irritated. On reaching the airport, how much I should pay? 2,000 rupees, sir. 2,000 for coming to the airport. Yes, sir. Our autometer is very, very fast, made in India, sir, he said. So the speed is a relative one. He talks about the speed of the engine, he talks about the speed of the autometer. So the wavelength should be very, very clear. And they say any agreement, the consensus add item is very, very important. Both the parties should agree on the subject matter. A person was a very clean shaven person. A person asked him, you seem to be clean shaven, how many times you shave? 100 times I have shaved, sir. Are you a fool? You are shaving 100 times per day. No, sir, I am a barber. That is my profession. He talks about self-shaving, another fellow talks about professional shaving. That's why consensus had item, both the parties. The solutions are different. Each industry is they have their own business model, they have their own working style. And whether it is a foreign country where I am a consultant to many Korean companies, where they have a style, there are different style is there. Even they started now feeling slightly. The NBFCs, where we have reduced our exposure,
I'm connected to NBFC side, and we reduced the two-wheeler. We stopped funding the new vehicles because the moment repossessing starts, the value comes to 50%, exposure is off. Then we started giving to second hand. There also, there are challenges have come. Now we are almost reduced our exposure. The reason is the difference, residual value you talked about in connection with the battery, what he said, insurance. So these are all certain practical issues which they have spoken. He has covered it very much, and I have to really thank him. I have to thank our President, Mr. Raghavan sir, for bringing such a illustrious and very expert in this field. And we have to tell about Mr. Raghavan. Raghavan is what he said. For him, positions are ornamental, friendship is sentimental. He is such a person as such. That's why today, to relieve our tension in the automobile, he has brought the birth of tension is the death of talent. So the original talent should be nurtured, so the tension should be killed. And what is the real reason for this slowdown? He tried to bring an expert speaker and tried to lucidly expose the whole thing. And finally, the slogan of the HMT watches is that if you have the inclination, we have the time. This is the slogan. The slogan of the Triplicane Cultural Academy is that if you have the inclination, we have the time to organize many more programs of this nature. And I thank our President, I thank Mr. Anand, I thank the expert speaker, I thank the illustrious veterans of the field who have come here to listen his lecture. I thank our secretaries, and I have to tell about the secretaries. They said that, while God heals the patient, doctor collects the fees. Like that, they toil so much, and we get the name. We come and address here. Actually, there we have two very low profile, low key, but then they do the real work behind. The two secretaries are there. Kindly give a big hand. I thank all the members for supporting us. The next one is budget meeting. What our Honorable Finance Minister has it. We have indirect taxes, direct taxes, economic scenario. 3 parts are there. Kindly do come and support us. Thank you, one and all.